Welcome to Blink 155, the internet's only Jezebel-approved Blink 182 podcast. Josiah, how does it feel to finally be a certified ally? Because this is it. I'm going to put it in like my LinkedIn.
You're going to put
like, popular Blink 182 podcast, Jezebel.
Look, that was a huge thing that happened this week. Tom DeLonge released basically an Elliot Rodger tribute by accident with his music video for Angels and Airwaves. I mean, and I will say allegedly by accident. I don't know where he was coming from with it, but it was like that music video is sketchy as all hell. I mean, there's no. I tweeted out the clip of the video and then it like accidentally exploded. Like I just sort of wasn't paying attention. Then I came back and I was like, oh, there we go. And so I made sure to watch the whole thing to be like, was I being unfair? But like, that is the creepiest fucking video I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, so this is the music video for Rebel Girl, the new Angels and Airwaves song, and you tweeted about it, you know, effectively saying like this is the incel sort of anthem and accompanying sort of visuals that people have been waiting for. Because it really is like a full-on, like I think you texted me and said, so the new Angels and Airwaves video is literally about the friend zone, which is a topic that we have been endorsing consistently over the last 2 weeks of this podcast.
I've been saying, hey now, I am an ally, soon to be Jezebel approved. Get my little Jezebel check mark.
Knew. You sensed that was coming.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, even if people listen to the exclusive that we did about the song, they know that I fucking love the song, and I still do. And even watching it over and over again, I'm like, man, this song is so sick. But then there's all these like voiceovers where it's basically about how women are scum for not, you know, doing that stuff. For
not sort of, being like constantly indebted to men sexually.
Yeah, exactly. So that was huge. That exploded, and it was everywhere. But there's actually a different controversy I want to talk about from the last week or two. If you'll have it.
I would rather not.
It's even this one.
Do I have an option? I like the idea where things get presented here like I somehow have
some say
willpower still.
No, like recently, I don't remember which week it was because my life is in shambles, and I know that yours also is. Your life is in sambles, actually.
Holy shit. That's cool, man.
It's really bad. Really bad. I've noticed that when I do a really bad pun, that you don't laugh, you just go, oh, because you don't know how else to react.
Well, I want you to know that I have understood the joke.
You just sort of recognize
but that's all I'm willing to give you.
It's just sort of a quick little red check mark on a score sheet.
Acknowledging its existence.
Yeah. So I think it was last week or maybe a couple weeks ago, I sort of flippantly said that it wasn't okay to wear shorts on stage. And
I don't think it was flippant. I feel like we actually talked about this at length.
We did talk about it at length, but I mean to say, I sort of spoke from the assumption that everyone understood where I was coming from. And
right, I understand.
And since then,
saying,
I've been sort of like, not only has everyone on the nation lost it on me, but I've started running Exclaim Media's, Canada's Music and Film and Comedy Authority's Twitter account, and I did a poll on there that I also did on Facebook and Instagram, and everyone was losing it. And a lot of people were saying that shorts are not okay on stage, but somebody else did reply and say that telling people, this is real, I don't remember who it was or on which medium, but someone did reply and say, telling people what they can wear on stage is a form of clothing racism or something. It was like a sincere reply. Truly incredible. But I've just really been actually losing sleep about it because the reaction has been so strong from some people whose opinions I respect as well. And I just want to clarify where I'm coming from, which is that I truly do think that it's not okay to wear shorts on stage unless, and I'll explain this in a second, but I'm going to say unless you are a hardcore band, then you can wear shorts on stage. And now in my mind, hardcore is not just a genre, but it's a way of life. And so if your band has non-binary or non-male people in your band, then you're a hardcore band. If your band is Vampire Weekend and you're doing genre tourism and doing things ironically until they become cool, then you're a hardcore band. So you're allowed to wear shorts on stage because Ezra wears shorts on stage now.
Okay.
And you know, I mean, if you're a hardcore band, if you are just a bunch of like cis dudes playing actual hardcore music, then you're allowed to wear shorts on stage. But everyone else, if you're not in some form of what I call a hardcore band, which is basically either actual hardcore or someone who's like having dalliances in corny genres and making them cool, or not all straight white male band, then you're not. They're allowed to wear shorts. Everyone else is not allowed. So I hope that makes sense.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that we're 100% clear. You're saying that people in hardcore bands can wear shorts, and you're saying that people in bands that you like that are definitely not hardcore, but you've decided are hardcore for the purpose of this rule, can wear shorts because you would hate to invent a rule that causes you to be in conflict with your boy Ezra, and then also you don't want to police the bodies of non-cis hetero white men, and so you've also just added this whole other category.
No, because it's helping me understand hardcore too. Is that those people are hard. You are.
I don't know that that's what
because
this is doing.
Look at this. This is the Vampire Weekend Father of the Bride album cover. Okay, one of the best albums of the year. Look at that.
Okay. Yeah.
This is happening on the fly. Look at
right. Yeah, you were prepared for this defense
I really
of shorts
do think
once
that
again.
Vampire Weekend is a hardcore band. This is the Vegan Reich hardline cover. They're clearly exactly the same. And
oh wow, yeah, that's okay. That's homage.
At this point, the Ralph Lauren polo bear is basically the long lost member of Vampire Weekend. Like, I mean, everything about Vampire Weekend, the streetwear, the genre tourism, the like daring people not to like things that sound cheesy at first. They're definitely a hardcore band without question. Vampire Weekend is NYHC. I'm sorry to say it.
All right, cool. That's it. You've heard it. You heard it here. A definitive statement from Josiah, who is now taking all of these opinions and using them to operate the channels for. And this, I want to make this very clear to people who are not listening to this in Canada. Exclaim, where you're an editor, is the only national like music and culture magazine that we have.
Yeah.
Like it's the only one. So this isn't like a cute regional.
Yeah, I'm not, or like
this
it's not like
is
one of those like new verticals that every media Twitter person works for 3 months called like snipe.com or something. And then they're like, oh, I love snipe.com. We all went for martinis after, and then they all either get laid off or like I don't know what they do. Like these roves of media Twitter people. How does that work when they're just moving around everywhere?
Yeah, they're just sort of like it's lawless in the streets of New York every couple of weeks when Valter or whatever gets shut down.
And it's now lawless on Exclaim's Twitter, where I also ran a poll about who was better between the Beatles and Blink-182.
So this is a magazine. Again, this is not a fly-by-night operation. So I'm just thinking of the Australians right now. Exclaim has been around for what at this point?
I don't know.
20 years?
I don't want to talk about my job. You want to talk about your job?
I know you don't, but I'm just more trying to emphasize the idea that like this is like an institution, and classically like
and Sam
a very
respects
severe
institutions in all of their forms.
Yeah, exactly.
Sam's mad that I'm running the Exclaim Twitter because my handshake isn't firm enough. I think
it really bothers me, but I just want people to understand that it's like this is like a serious tone consistently. Like Exclaim's not historically been like a funny or personality driven magazine. It's for like serious examinations of the Tortoise discography.
Thanks for reading my articles, Sam.
Right, and all of a sudden the fucking Twitter is who's better, the Beatles or Blink-182, and the people who aren't your friends who know that this has become part of your job are seeing this after years and years and years of like the history of Ride or whatever. Are like fuming in the comments about like the Beatles are one of the greatest bands of all time. How dare you compare them?
Hey, come on!
Because those serious Exclaim readers are also British.
You don't have to throw Alex Hudson under the bus like that.
But it's a real treat, and if you are outside of Canada, I recommend following the Exclaim Twitter for like news articles, but then also like occasionally just like
I made a Grateful Dead Slipknot mashup meme the other day. There's like there's all kinds of nugs hidden in there if you keep your eye out. I'll say that much.
You're turning all the Exclaim socials into a real freak scene.
Uh-oh.
Do you have to go sell your garbage can now?
No, not yet. She said she's going to be late. If you heard a lull in one of my sentences earlier, it's because I was replying to a lady who's coming to my apartment to buy my garbage can, and she was telling me she was going to be 15 minutes late. So just want everyone to know, everyone who listens to this internationally streamed podcast, I want you all to know that
you're selling a garbage
selling my garbage can to Catherine. And she's...
Yo, don't dox your garbage can lady.
I don't know her last name. I do know that we only bought it like a month ago for $100, and she talked me down to 30. So, getting fucked.
Sorry, how fancy of a fucking garbage can do you have?
I don't know, like one of those.
What
like,
does
nice
$100 garbage can
look like? One of those
look
like nice stainless steel Amazon ones. I can be champagne sometimes too.
I know but like you've. I don't know. You've shown me like an element of like the champagne lifestyle that I wasn't even aware of, and so I'm jealous. Like I'm not mad. I'm like I got like this keeping up with the Hugheses thing happening right now.
Your garbage is just like you hand it to one of your servants that you hire, and they deal with it.
Yeah, I don't need a garbage can, of course. Why would I let garbage collect inside of my home?
This is a really unique episode. Yeah.
The song Freak Scene by the band Blink-182
by
as
the
originally
band
performed Dinosaur Jr.
I think we got to start with like a what's our own... I'm curious. Actually, I want to even rewind even further than that. I don't understand what your relationship is with like indie rock. I feel like you've just been listening to Jeff Rosenstock for the last 25 years.
Yeah, that was it. I was born in jorts. Like on the floor of the venue in Gainesville in the middle of a Bomb the Music Industry set.
That's what I figured. No, yeah. But like, did you have do you have like indie rock bands that you like that aren't like, or is your indie rock band the Weaker Thans?
Yeah, that's it. And even that is like just because like of propaganda. Right. Otherwise, like I need a like punk connect in order to like justify some indie rock like dalliance for some, even though I'm like not actually punk, like for some reason the only place that I'm punk is in my indie rock band selection. So no, I've never been like a huge, like there's certainly like bands that have cut through and like records that I like one national record or something, you know, but like for the most part, this was never like a thing that I got into. And so belatedly from time to time, I'll be like, oh my God, do you guys realize that this band is like I got into Pavement like 5 years ago and was like, Pavement's so sick. And everyone was like, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I could not believe how good Pavement, it was like no one told me or something.
Right. But so were you like judgy about it when you were younger?
No, I think like part of like being in high school and being into punk for me was like definitely trying to like assert an identity, and then that just sort of becomes the parameters through which you like view your entire life and all of your taste. Yeah. And so like I think about when bands like, you know, and this is different from Dinosaur Jr., but like the Strokes blew up, and like I had friends who listened to the Strokes, and I would borrow the CD from someone to listen to it and be like, objectively this is fine, but it doesn't do a lot for me, and I sort of like hate how much everyone likes it. Like I didn't get into LCD Sound System until like well after they had broken up, and then I was like, yo, this band is incredible.
You watched the doc and you're like, oh shit.
I think that literally was it. I saw the doc and I was like, oh, I missed a whole thing here.
Yeah. I mean, these being your indie rock examples are, yeah, okay, it's showing me you've kind of sat the whole thing out.
Yeah, completely. And it's one of those things where like sometimes belatedly, like 2 years later, I'll hear an album that everybody was excited about, like TV on the radio. Like again, I'm naming like literally the most like cartoonishly
like you literally just read Meet Me in the Bathroom, and that's what you're doing is naming that book.
I'm like flipping through it in front of me right now.
This is an audiobook from Meet Me in the Bathroom right now.
Yeah, and so but for me, it was always coming to those things belatedly because. For no good reason, like for no defensible reason, I always found like if, and again, this, I hate hearing this coming about, but this is the reality of it. It was like if Pitchfork or like certain Exclaim writers were excited about something, I like legitimately just did not want to even fucking hear
it. Please tell me the writers later off mic.
Yeah. And so, and I was, and then if I found it out later, it was like, you know, the music's still there. It's not like, you know, I can't go back and enjoy those things in my own, you know, in my own due time.
But like obviously Dinosaur Jr. predates Pitchfork and all that kind of stuff. But I just also found it strange that like we were both born in '85, and for me personally, I did grow up loving indie rock, but I never got into Dinosaur Jr. and it was always people who were either older than me or younger than me who were into them. I feel like my demographic just like missed it maybe, or maybe it was just me, but I was always like, oh, I don't like them. I like Built to Spill. I always liked the nasal guys like Built to Spill and Modest Mouse, not the like sort of like more it's a weird word to use, but almost macho sounding vocals, or like just the lower register. It didn't really cut through to me, so I never got into them.
I love the idea of calling Dinosaur Jr. macho.
Yeah, yeah, I know. and like it's weird too because I love it now, but just at the time when I heard it, I think I also was resentful because Dinosaur Jr. is one of those bands that, because they were a hardcore band first, every hardcore kid always loved Dinosaur Jr., but they would hate on all the things that I was listening to that were like basically the same or similar. Mm-hmm. So I'd always be like trying to play Built to Spill for my friends, and they'd not be into it, but then they'd put on Dinosaur Jr., and I'm like, it's the same fucking thing. You just only like it because they used to be in a hardcore band. It's not fair. So that used to always like drive me crazy. But they are the hardcore band approved indie rock band, I guess.
Yeah, and I think you're totally right. Again, maybe just in my limited experience, but I felt the same about this band where like older kids that I knew like worship Dinosaur Jr. and worship J Mascis and then love Sebadoh and then just like keep going and it never felt like to me like a super relevant band, even though like I know objectively I know that's not true, and especially now I know that's not true, but it didn't have any real resonance for me, and also like I didn't feel like I had any peers that were really into this, even though all the punks that are like 5 years older than you like fucking loved it and still love it and like, you know, will shit themselves if they see J Mascis.
Yeah, and also the thing is, with age, I've learned that those people are correct, and Dinosaur Jr. does fucking rule. J Mascis is sick at guitar, and like in general, they're a really good band. But especially this song is like, when I hear it now, I'm like, how did I miss this my whole life? Like, this is even just like the music that I've made, it fits into that world so well. Like this,
yeah, that's true.
It's one of those things where you're like, this song has influenced me in a way that I didn't even realize because I was listening to something a few degrees removed from it or whatever.
But do you go back and listen to it now? Like, I feel like this is the most embarrassing sort of route into Dinosaur Jr., but I think the first time that I, like, really got this band was when Feel the Pain was in Rock Band or, like, Guitar Hero or one of those games.
Yeah. I see you are a fellow gamer.
Yeah. Sorry, I've been hiding this part of myself. And I was like, wow, this song's amazing. Why did I never give this band a chance? And then I like listened to it a bit, but it just sort of faded. Like there's still, despite the fact that like listening to this before the episode, I was like, this song is fucking incredible. And I do think it's more reflective of a type of punk that's like more your thing probably than my thing. Yeah. But it's still like objectively great and interesting. And Mascis is like objectively not only like an insanely sick guitar player. And I love loud shit. And this is a man who has like a billion fucking amps on stage and does all the stuff that I like. And also looks so cool. Like might be the coolest looking like rocker of his cohort. Like, is there anyone more just, like, somehow, like sick looking, but also, like, absolutely not giving a fuck about their vibe, seemingly?
Yeah.
Like, he just rides this perfect line. And yet, I'm not going to listen to Dinosaur Jr. again until, like Ashley might put it on at some point, and then maybe I'll hear it. But, like, I'm not going to, on my own,
really
put on
does have better taste than you,
She is objectively so much cooler than me. Like, it's, like, just, like an empirical truth, but like, yeah, I'm not going to put it on, and I don't know why. I think I need things to be more like, I don't go for subtlety, and I feel like the like kind of like laconic Dinosaur Jr. vibe is like not enough for me, where I will put on a 4-year strong record before this, even though objectively I know that one is good and one is bad. Like, but I'm just being fucking honest.
Yeah. No, like, I don't want to put this person on blast because they listen to the pod, but someone's been lending us their Criterion Channel account, and I've been watching them, and I know that they have just sort of more like normal human taste in movies. And so
Are you talking about me right now?
No, not you. I'm not using your Criterion Channel account, but the person who's I am. And so I'll log in and see that like they've just watched the first 10 minutes of a classic movie that you're supposed to like, and then given up and tried a different one. And every time I log in, I see they're still never past that 10 minutes. And it's like, at some point we have to just be like true to ourselves and not like things because we're supposed to like them also.
Yeah, and I think that's like, I don't know if I wonder if our parents ever felt that way. Like that they had to sort of fake things for kind of, if not like the cultural currency, just like at least for the sort of way, I don't know, that it like positions yourself in your own taste and what that means about you as like a discerning, consumer of culture.
Yeah.
It's a situation that I feel like I frequently found myself in because, it's one of those things where you're like read enough about music and film and just like whatever culture generally to kind of know what is objectively considered good and bad. And then what's weird is when you are cognizant of the fact that your tastes are bad. Like jokes aside, because like, look, the Justice League thing or like shit that I don't actually like that's fine. But in general, like I like really compressed contemporary music more than I like, good older music. Like that's just like the reality. Like, I love Aquaman, and I have not watched
so much worse than Justice League. And also that basically
Aquaman fucking rocks.
Wait,
like
isn't Aquaman in
rock.
Justice League though?
Yeah, I think so, but it's not enough. I also, like, we talked about this with Criterion Channel launch. Like, I've been watching, I watched Persona, and I love Persona, and it made me feel so good that I loved, like, a smart person movie, but I cannot bring myself to watch, like, 8.5, and I cannot bring myself to watch the 400 Blows, and they just sit there in this queue where I'm like, I have to do this thing, and I bet I'll like it, because every time I watch one of these movies with, like, The Seventh Seal was boring as shit, but, like, in general, good things tend to be good. Yeah. Like Dinosaur Jr., but it's just, like, sometimes they don't resonate with you. Because I guess, like taste and like objective thought are very sort of distinct centers of the brain, possibly.
Well, yeah, because taste is in your mouth, and then the thoughts are not in your mouth.
That's interesting.
The thoughts are in your dick. But the thing about this song is that it actually, like, because to me, I've still never, like, I can't, like, rank Dinosaur Jr. albums or, like, even really name most of them. Or I've just kind of sort of casually respected the band from afar. And when I hear it, I'm like, okay, this is actually sick. And the guitars rule. And Jay Mascis seems so cool. I, like, read this article a few years ago where it was, like, they go to his house and visit him. And it's like, if I was, like, an old punk guy, I would have the exact same house. Like, he just has, like, all kinds of weird shit everywhere. And just seems, like, cool as hell. But the thing about this song separated from what my idea of Dinosaur Jr. is, and I think...
Yeah, he also wears so much Mishka, though, and, like, that shit is so cool, and I can't wear it. I have one Mishka hat, and, like, Ashley has, at various points, sternly suggested that I not, like, just wear it
well, I think
when we're out together.
Yeah. I think at this point, Mishka is kind of like Zumi's dumpster fodder as well.
I get it, but I'm talking about this from like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Like Damien was also wearing, like Damien Abraham also wore
it's weird
a lot of
too.
Mishka, I think, because he's obsessed with Mascis.
Yeah, because it seems like Dinosaur Jr. was like also, for some reason, like 2009 corporate takeover wave. Like there's like some DC Shoes video of them playing this song with Bob Mould that I found and stuff. So definitely whatever was going on in 2009 with brands and authenticity, Dinosaur Jr. was a part of that. Not that that's their fault or anything bad.
They reaped the benefits financially. They deserve
exactly.
it.
But anyways, my idea of Dinosaur Jr. is not this song. And when I listen to this song on its own, it's like, it's so twee and it's such a hit. And it's also like, listen to all these sirens out here. Damn. It's the garbage lady.
Is that Naheed Nenshi trying to keep you in Calgary?
Yeah, exactly. No, I think it's the garbage can lady. This song on its own is like, I actually see the roots of pop punk in here so much more than I realize. And even there's this like heavy chugging guitar in the chorus that's like really out of the blue. And it really does marry all of these things together, and it actually does make sense to me now why Blink covered it.
Yeah, it's interesting how much of kind of a Blink song it not like fully, but it doesn't sound as goofy as I thought it would. But I'll be totally honest, I don't remember what the Dinosaur Jr. version even sounds like, and I decided not to listen to it before this episode. So I'm just going to treat this like it's a Blink-182 song.
Perfect, even better.
Yeah,
yeah, it does because it almost sounds like a Blink song, but it doesn't quite. And Mark's voice is really low singing this. It sounds like contemporary Mark almost.
Yeah, but it's also funny that when he does the thing where he sort of goes up and sort of yells, like there's some like very endearing sort of Markness all over this song.
Oh, the other thing I meant to say off the top is that the title "Freak Scene" makes me think of like in the context of the 90s, it's so perfectly a 90s title, and it makes me think of like the Lollapalooza episode of The Simpsons, or like the way that everyone just sways around. Like it's so slacker rock. But then like in contemporary terms, the words together "freak scene" just make me think of like leet speak that's connected to a torrent of a TV show. Like it would be spelled with 3s and 4s.
Yeah,
like,
totally. It's definitely some hack horror shit for sure.
Like who decided the language that they put in all of the torrent files when you click the magnet link, and then there's like it's like how did they develop that? And are there people who pay attention to that and like know about I can't even remember, like repack or all that shit. Like, what does that even mean? What are you guys talking about over there? And
I mean, I don't know what you're talking about because, of course, I have never utilized the illegal
exactly
torrenting sites.
Oh, no, I only use BitTorrent.com for their legal releases of, like, Atoms for Peace B-sides or whatever.
Yeah, it's like Tom York is like the only... Because remember for a minute people were like, oh, BitTorrent's about to go legit, and that was it. It was just the one thing. It was like one Atoms for Peace record, and we were like, this is good.
Yeah, but no, the lyrics are like really cute and naive, but also good. I love just things like talking about weirdness and saying "what a mess." Like it's just like so like the lyrics are just so flannel seeming,
and it makes me again want to like this whole thing. I'm feeling like the same sort of weird like embarrassment, but I'm comfortable now like admitting that I don't have like a history with this music, but it is so objectively good that you're like, why? Like, why, why do some things cut through? Why is it that, I like Superchunk, but I don't like Dinosaur Jr.?
Superchunk to me is totally another band that people have told me I would like, and like on paper I do like, but it just doesn't like connect with me. I don't know. Yeah. It's like, it feels, some of these bands just feel like doing homework a little bit to me. But
yeah. There was also, and I kind of wonder, if you went through something similar, but indie rock, quote unquote, was also like the obviously, I mean, everywhere, but like in Toronto, like such a dominant part of the music scene here with the whole like Torontopia and like Broken Social Scene kind of wavelength scene that developed. And that was so definitively like the fucking cool kids. And it's interesting because this thing kind of flipped, but I think of, again, when I started writing for Exclaim, it was like we couldn't get a review of Fucked Up, like early Fucked Up, or like Epics and Minutes, like the compilation of all of their sort of like early kind of 7-inch material into the print publication because like no one gave a shit.
Right.
But like there would be 200 reviews of like various Blocks Recording Club albums and you'd be like, I know, and this sort of speaks to a general, I think, like punk indie dichotomy, and then ties into like greater feelings of resentment and pettiness that you and I have explored in depth on this podcast, where to me, there's always been this chasm between, don't get me wrong, in general, like, so Dinosaur Jr., objectively fucking great. Objectively great. But there's this other tier of just like indie stuff. In particular, I feel like this happened in Toronto, but I'm sure it happened everywhere. It obviously happened in places like Brooklyn, where like they were just sort of part of a thing that everyone was excited about or whatever. And so you'd get, like glowing praise for bands that have like 5 fans. Meanwhile, and I'm just hammering on the Fucked Up thing, like Fucked Up was on their way to becoming the most important hardcore band of a generation. And like, we could not get any space for them in a national music magazine.
I think what you're really doing is drawing back to my very intelligent and insightful intro, which is that you're either a hardcore band or you're not. And I would say Dinosaur Jr. can absolutely wear shorts on stage because they're a hardcore band.
That's interesting. Because they definitely could.
Yeah, because like Yeah, like the word indie is like any other word. It's like fucking watered down to shit. Like obviously this has nothing in common with like the Most Serene Republic or Mother or whatever. Like it's not.
Oh yeah, let's talk about arts and crafts.
It's not the same thing, but it's all called indie. But yeah, like I mean, Dinosaur Jr. has more in common musically with like Pierce Arrows or something, or just like it's like a little bit bluesy, and that's probably why I didn't love it when I was younger, because I was afraid of pentatonic guitar solos. But it's like it just sounds like Crazy Horse pretty much, and that's why it's sick. But then then we have to get back to the real thing of like, so why did Blink-182 cover this on their demo? Like it's such a because also it is a real like 2009 thing to be like I'm down with Dinosaur Jr. But then in '92 to be down with Dinosaur Jr. is like it kind of just says something interesting and I think really cool about Blink-182, and it shows that like there is more intentionality to their like poppiness and even hipness sometimes than we give them credit for.
Absolutely. Like that was the same thought I had, where it's like, okay, these guys weren't just like name checking them to be cool. This was just clearly, you know, I think if you look at the covers that this band has released, they're indicative of like a certain musical taste. And for the most part, it makes sense. Like the idea of like NoFX and Screeching Weasel, you're like, okay, that's like very much in this pop punk lineage. But Dinosaur Jr., I think, is like, that's the hint that there has always been a little more going on here. And was never going to be like just a band that copied the Ramones or copied the Descendants, and that they were able to sort of draw from a more kind of interesting like melodic palette, and you know, and clearly like Mark being obsessed with The Cure, like those are all like legitimate obsessions that exist inside of that band creatively that are not about sort of doing the poser shit and being like, oh, we were really inspired by Ornette Coleman on this record. It's like, no, you fucking weren't. Like, no one's inspired by Ornette Coleman except for jazz musicians, and no one listens to jazz.
Hey, speaking of jazz, I've got to take my garbage can down to the lobby. So I'll be right back. The can is gone.
Oh, R.I.P. the can. Your rich-ass can. So was it worth the $70? Do you feel like you got $70 worth of can out of the last, like, month?
I don't think so. I don't know. I mean, I just feel like it's the kind of thing where when you're an adult, you're like, I should get a nice garbage can because it's always going to be here. I create a lot of garbage.
I mean, or you could just get, like, a helper.
Right. Yeah, you got to either get can or man or one man or
you know what's awful is like in the intervening like few minutes that it's taken you to unload your trash. Like I've started thinking about how this podcast like has a certain guest on it. Are we back to like pretending that the guest is a secret?
I mean, up to you. I was already thinking about that the whole time, and you've been just shitting all over the man's work.
Well, that's what I mean. But I haven't been. I've been saying constantly how like objectively good it is, and blah 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 blah. But
Yeah,
like,
it's very Sammy intro.
I know.
It's okay.
And I'm like, so not only, I mean, I can't imagine like he's going to listen to this entire episode unless he's like, I don't know. Really,
Are you doing like
bored.
on mic talking right now, or am I editing this out?
I mean, I am doing on mic. This could be on mic. Like I'm using my on mic.
You're
voice.
using your on mic voice. Sam actually speaks.
I'm not like
a
eating something.
gentle little orphan when he's not on mic.
I have
very
orphan
Oliver
voice
Twist.
for sure. Yeah.
Except he's always asking for less because the episodes are so damn long.
Hello. See,
Okay.
that's another example of something that isn't funny enough to
Yeah,
laugh
but you
at,
just
but was
acknowledge
certainly
it.
like, you know, it
Just
was humorous.
A highlighter. Just putting a audio highlighter over it to
A
acknowledge
joke.
it. I
It was
just
just
want
like-
acknowledgement of some sort, and so it's fine. You're still scratching the itch for me.
It's like how the kind of transition out of like 90s style sitcoms with a laugh track into just like, you know, the more contemporary kind of just like single camera sitcom with no laugh track. You'd have shows like Scrubs that like knew that the audience still needed a little bit of a helping hand to know what was funny. So even though there was no laugh track, every joke was just punctuated by like woo, like bass slides and shit. So you were still like,
I've never
aha,
watched
a joke.
Scrubs, to be honest.
Oh, I'll be honest. I spent a couple of like extremely hungover, you know, I was going to say Sundays, but probably like Wednesdays because I was in my 20s, watching like an entire season of Scrubs. And
That's dark.
And Scrubs would be real good at, like, 3-4 episodes in a row of just like non-stop bass lines, like just giving you the full body chuckles the whole time.
Actually, the reason they got rid of laugh tracks wasn't because of like some sort of aesthetic reason. It was because they decided to stop making comedies funny, and so they just were like. That's why. They still do technically have a laugh track. It's just they don't.
People are in the studio. They're just,
yeah, exactly.
Grimly staring ahead.
Thinking
like
about all the metaphors and the subtext and whatnot.
The themes of this show are fascinating. Like every 4th episode of Scrubs or 5th episode would always be like an episode where like someone very wise died, and then like the one mentor doctor who's normally like really mean would be like very serious and caring. And if you're like hungover and feeling emotional, you just be like a puddle of tears.
This is somehow getting darker and darker as it goes on.
By the end of this episode, I'm copying having like a full blown drinking problem, but also being a huge Zach Braff fan.
Yeah,
which is worse.
And also like so performatively obsessed with Dinosaur Jr. that you've bought all of their discography.
Yeah, like the interesting thing about Freak Scene is it actually feels like an evolution of the riff on an earlier Dino Jr. demo. Yeah.
Man, back then people were obsessed with DJ, the band, and now you go to a nightclub and it's all actual DJs is the problem.
Wow.
These days.
Boo! one of the like most important sort of like musical people in my life, and I know I've talked about this, family friend, my mom's best friend's son. He's like a couple years older than me, and he like got me into Fugazi. Which was like I initially hated, yada yada yada. We've talked about this, but he is like in my mind like the sort of like primo, like kind of Gen X Dinosaur Jr. obsessive. And one of his friends is like in a like a psych rock, like Jay Mascis has like 100 fucking insane bands, and so this guy like. After like they grew up as teens, obsessed with Mascis, obsessed with Sebadoh, like obsessed with this whole universe, and then. Eventually, like in his 30s, this guy ended up in a band with Jay Mascis, and we were like together at some family thing, and he's like, "It's crazy, he's in a band with Mascis," and then he's like showing me on his phone like a photo of the back of the record sleeve. It's like their names are both on this, and I was like, "This is great." He's texting me. He's like, "Are you at the Dino Jr. show?" And I'm like, "Couldn't make it." Like I've spent my entire life pretending I fucking get this band more than I do, or I get it. Anyway. I'm stressing. I'm having a really bad night.
Then the hold steady comes through, and you're shaving off the middle section of your head so that you can be bald for a night, and you're busting out your blazer.
Yeah, totally. I love the new hold steady. By the way, if anybody wants to talk to me about it, let's.
Good Lord.
T-shirt tux. That's maybe my favorite. I know
you put on. They have a song with a T-shirt tuxedo in fucking 2019.
Mm-hmm. Also a piano key tie.
The whole study is like putting on NPR and the HGTV pop punk music at the same time.
It's so perfect. They really are like one of God's most perfect bands.
Whew. Not my God, my friend.
And you're the only one who really gets to have one on this podcast.
Exactly.
So that's fair. Sorry to assert his taste.
Let me just keep this moving because there's more to go.
Oh, okay.
I know you got to go out and... I don't know a joke here. I know that you have plans after this, so let's move along.
Right. Okay.
We always think that Mark is the one who is the dino head.
That's what I thought when he sings the song, yeah.
According to... And I will say, Mark Hoppus did actually cover Freak Scene with guest/friend of the pod, Allie Kohler from Vivian Girls, but I couldn't find a video of it. But they did, when she was in a cover band with him, they played this song. So he's been fucking with this song for like most of his life. But there's this huge Rolling Stone feature on Blink-182 that I've never read before. And I found this thing about how it was actually Tom DeLonge also got into Dinosaur Jr. like separately from Mark. And so this section says, DeLonge, born December 13th, 1975, grew up near San Diego and started skateboarding in the 3rd grade. I guess this is also, so this is also like, because it wasn't Pitchfork, this was one of those bands that people probably got into through like skate culture. which I think we're both too lame for that.
Right. That's definitely, I feel like this was like in a lot of skate videos. Like, yeah. And I like definitely watched like the, like Spike Jones girl video. That all the shit that like we all watched. And I was like, cool, I'm down with skate culture.
Yeah, I know what's up. The Owen Wilson
I have
thing.
airwalks.
Yeah. But you were too busy binging Scrubs to actually like get into the real shit.
Exactly.
So, as he got older, it was all he thought about. In school, he would work just hard enough to get a C to conserve his energy for skateboarding. In the 7th grade, he visited a friend in Oregon who expanded his musical horizons by playing him Stiff Little Fingers, Dinosaur Jr., and The Descendants. Previously, DeLong had thought punk was just fast noise, but now he fell in love with it. And this last sentence I didn't need to include, but of course I did. Then, he went to church camp, where a kid had a guitar in his bunk. DeLong picked it up and couldn't put it down. So Blink-182 is a Christian pop-punk band.
That's great. Well, this is perfect, man. I'm so happy for you.
We're really crossing off all of the checks here.
I could not believe how perfectly things are coming together for you specifically in this episode.
Well, I was thinking, actually, though, that is why when I was growing up, I would like go to metalcore shows and then go to noise shows and then go to bad indie rock shows. It's because, like, when you learn about music through some sort of like bizarre subculture, like Christian music or Mormon music or whatever, or even I guess it's similar to growing up in a small town. There's like less options for you to delineate an identity based on a certain sound. So then you just kind of open your mind to everything.
Yeah, that's fair. I also wonder if like, you and I maybe besides like Blink being an inciting incident for us, like also both came at like in general, like to punk from kind of different angles, and like I got really into emo in a way that you didn't. Mm-hmm. As far as I'm pretty sure I know, and I feel like we've plumbed the depths of our taste pretty effectively here. And there's no way that like Taking Back Sunday and Dashboard Confessional had heard a Dinosaur Jr. record, but like that was not like in their DNA. I don't think like, maybe now like
until the 2009 Vans times Dinosaur Jr. or whatever, when everyone had to like contractually pretend to like them.
Yeah, exactly. And I wonder if that's like maybe one of the ways in which like our paths fork, and the way like for some people like just if you come at it from like maybe the more like authentic punker side, which is where this band is rooted, or you come at it from like a like kind of suburban, like low key misogynist side, which is where I came from. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's it.
Yeah, I don't know, but it is just it's all very strange, it's just very strange to imagine all of this happening, and it is really cool that Blink-182 even just wore their influences on their sleeve right away, so clearly. Mm-hmm. And I guess it's pretty common, but it's also just nice that they did that, because it's so annoying, like you said, the Ornette Coleman thing earlier. It's so annoying when people just pretend to not be influenced by what they're fucking obviously influenced by. Yeah,
because I mean, look at like it, as with anything, like being in a band is just like being a kid or being an adult. Where like, who's the band that you like draw on your binder or your backpack or your fucking shoes, or that you wear a pin of, or that you wear a T-shirt of, that you get fucking tattoos of? Like, those are all signals you're sending out into the world to make people see you a certain way. And as a band, you're doing the same thing. So you want to frame Blink as like the next act in this lineage directly from the Descendants, fine. But again, I think the Cure Dino Jr. thing is really informative in terms of maybe one of the reasons why they've had such longevity, had such mainstream success, is because they were able to like meld coherently. Like, not that Dinosaur Jr. was not a mainstream sort of popular band, but The Cure obviously was. And again, I think it just sort of shows like a breadth of like the understanding of like, it's still kind of pop music, all of it is, right?
Yeah, it just shows like a sense of taste, and that they have intentionality with what they're doing. Mm-hmm. So that's really cool. You said you haven't listened to the band's version. I did write down their music video. I mean, it's not really very related, but there's this article that someone wrote about how they shot the music video in their backyard, and Jay Maskins was like talking about how much he was into Oi and Skinhead and early pre-racist Screwdriver during this shoot. So I was like, that's sick. I mean, he just like says all the right things and knows all the right. He's just like he's just so down, you know?
Does anyone actually like pre-racist Screwdriver, or is that just like that always felt like a really...
It's like a secret handshake or something.
Yeah, like I remember like for maybe it was like back in the day, I feel like it was like, again, Damien, and now I'm wondering if like, because Damien obviously worships Mascis.
Oh, well,
like,
I actually DM'd...
Damien's MySpace bio definitely had like pre-Nazi Screwdriver as one of his favorite
definitely.
bands.
Yeah, it's because like hardcore kids are different than us because we approach music like, oh, it's based on feeling or based on coolness or whatever. But hardcore kids like use some sort of like hip math to figure out what's good and what's bad, and they like approach it with such an emotionally cold way, which is why they're all into techno at the same time, having never listened to dance music in their life, or like they can just like move from genre to genre with no feeling because they have this cold, deadened, mathematical approach to what's cool or not. And that's why I feel like I could never truly be a hardcore kid, but I'll always respect them and watch them and follow their lead.
I feel like you're obsessed with hardcore kids.
I really am. I am, but I'm intimidated by them as well. But yeah, I actually DM'd Damien and asked him if he thought Jay Mascis would do the pod, and he said no, but he would ask. So, I mean, we tried, but we still... Yeah, well, we're not going to announce the guest yet because of this fake game that we play. But anyway,
I'm still mad that you fucked it up like 2 weeks ago or whatever. Like,
I think I
it
had
felt
to
like a
for
real
some
violation of like the code of pod.
I'm so sorry for violating you.
You violated the ring.
So on the Freak Scene forum, Dinosaur Jr. fan forum, in 2001, actually pre 9/11. Wow. In a Spin Magazine interview, they're talking about Mark Hoppus talking about Dinosaur Jr. in Spin Magazine in, I guess, 2001. He says, Jay Mascis' guitar was so fucking loud, my ears rang for 3 days afterward. I thought I would never be able to hear again, but it was still a kick-ass show. I mean, that's like a boring quote or whatever. But then in this thread, I just love because everyone discovers that Blink-182 covered Freak Scene, and they just like start sort of hedging about whether or not they approve of it or not. Like someone says, I just realized the other day that Blink-182 are into D Jr. when I heard their cover of Freak Scene. Who would have thought that these guys have some taste? But then everyone is like, I bet it sucks. And they're like, yeah, the guitar sucks. But, like, it's still really cool that they paid respect. But, like, it sucks. I would never, like... It's just, like, this classic... Especially feels very 2001 kind of online fandom where you just, really don't want to admit anything just in case.
This makes me hate indie rock again.
Yeah, but, I mean, everything's bad. That's the other thing. Like,
that's true.
Definitely, like, all of the stuff that you like is easily as bad as this.
Yeah, absolutely. I've always felt like there was something relatable to me about people that were in bands that were uncool but liked cool bands, and it was just sort of tragic because it was like, you know, those people will never respect you. We've talked about this before on the pod, but like I loved the Ataris, like fucking loved the Ataris, and Chris Rowe would constantly talk about how he was obsessed, and I believe him because it especially started to come out like later on in the band, but like that his favorite bands, in addition to the Descendants, which is like obviously where a lot of that shit came from, you know, like Lovelorn, Speedy, Pop Punk, like obsessed with like Swerve Driver and obsessed with The Cure and like, you know, all these other like kind of cool either indie rock bands or like shoegaze bands or whatever. And it was like all these bands would fucking hate you.
Yeah.
And I think that that's like really sad to me because it's sort of like you can be in the Ataris and like the Ataris and also like all these other bands, but there's something about like being in a cool band that impedes you from going down the funnel, you know? Like it only goes one way, and I've always wondered. I mean, I probably know why that is, but I think it's like an interesting sort of like phenomena, right?
I think it also is very fascinating though when people are like that because, like, I mean, I don't really like the Ataris. I've never gotten into them, but obviously, Chris Rowe is a good songwriter because people respect him so much. But then you find out that he's into cool things, and that explains it. Like he's paying attention to a vast history of music. I mean, it's like how Matt Skiba is like actually knows what he's doing, and we can say what we want about him in negative ways, but like he actually like is down, like he's paid attention to what's going on, and that does create for an interesting thing. Whereas like often people who are quote unquote cool, then they're just only big for 5 years until everyone moves on because they haven't like carved out a specific identity that like is maybe sometimes not cool and sometimes cool. Another person that I think of a lot like that is Adam Duritz from Counting Crows. Rest in peace to his dreadlocks, but
so sad.
He's always like wearing Dead Boys t-shirts and stuff. Like he just so badly wants to show that he knows what's up and that he's down. Maybe it's the opposite because he's peacocking it so hard that he's really being insecure. But I mean, he's a sick songwriter, but he's also kind of a joke to a lot of people. But yeah, it's just interesting. Like I think the other thing about this project is that I was explaining the pod to someone and I actually said it correctly once and now I forget what I said, but I'm going to try to repeat it. But it's something like, we grew up thinking that punk only belonged to us and our friends, but then because of the internet, we realized that like actually literally everyone loves Blink-182. And so the podcast is resonating with so many people because we think of it as our own thing, but it's actually everyone's. And so everyone has this like weird possessive personal relationship with it, but it's actually like so much bigger than we realize. So it's just, everything's really confusing about coolness and all that kind of stuff.
Well, that's really been driven home for me weirdly with like the reception of Colleen Green's Dude Ranch cover album, which I like fucking love and listen to constantly and think is like this just like beautiful piece of fucking art. Now, like I'm obsessed with this record. And at the same time, now it's been covered by The Ringer and like the AV Club. Like it's getting very mainstream praise, and you're like. Again, it feels very strange to be like, oh, this is how many people are down. Like, weren't we all pretending that this band sucked 10 years ago?
Yeah.
Like, what changed? But it is because I think the internet reminded us that like, no, everyone is just like you and likes all the things that you like.
Yeah,
so
and even if you don't, it's like you just don't like one thing, but then you probably like all the same thing. Like even the differences between you and me are so minuscule, but they make us like opposites, basically.
Right? Yeah. We hate each other.
It's very true. Even just to hammer home the strangeness, still though, is this photo of Travis Barker with Jay Mascis and Murph from Dinosaur Jr. from 2015. What a bizarre collection of individuals and insignias on all the shirts.
Amazing. So you've got 2 Mishka shirts, a Dead Kennedy shirt. That Mishka shirt's so tight. This is a cool photo. God, Jay Mascis looks fucking awesome.
I'm sure that you can. I'm sure that you could get some bulk Mishka shit at this point. Yeah. Buy a whole fucking skid of it, and you'll be set for life.
Man, Murph is such a cool name for a person.
I know, and we'll hear more about the Murph Travis connection later. But first, I did, because it's weird. We're doing a cover of a cover, but I still think we can look at some covers of Freak Scene as they fit within the Blink-155 universe, if we may.
I believe we may.
May we? Well, I think this first one is especially maybe going to help you, because I feel like this definitely seems like something that you're probably like on this recording doing gang vocal. This is like a very fest ass cover of this song.
Oh yeah, like don't get me wrong. If there are, of course the Tim version, yeah.
Like really?
If there are gang vocals on the internet, you better believe I'm on them.
Yeah, but there's this very specific kind of gang vocals too, where like it somehow sounds like less intimidating than if it was one person. Like there's gang vocals on like terror songs where you're like, I don't want to go anywhere near that gang. But the gang vocals that you're on are more like, this sounds like a very soft gang. Like, I'm not really scared of this gang at all.
It's a welcoming gang. It's a gang of pals, and you are one of the pals, the listener.
It's like the Better Business Bureau as a gang or something.
Yeah, it's a BIA gang. Yeah.
So you actually are friends with this band, the Tim
version? No, I'm
version.
not friends with the Tim version, but obviously, like, I don't think we've ever played with the Tim version, but the Tim version is like a,
Say their name more times.
Fest staple. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, I just saw Florida, the Guns crossing, the sort of post against me fake photocopier art. I was just like, yeah, this is definitely...
This is like true no idea aesthetic going on here.
Even the title of this album is so like Sammy. still have the nerve to call ourselves a band. That's so just like, this is just so you.
Okay, well now I'm starting to get offended, but it's fine. It's fine.
So this is the Tim version with Freak Scene. Maybe Sam's going to get into indie rock right now. get as far as the acousties earlier that come in.
See, why couldn't Dinosaur Jr. just sound like that?
I mean, thank God they don't. That's interesting, though. I'm curious more about like the kind of indie versus fest dichotomy, because I feel like that's probably a real. There's probably not a lot of like Pavement fans at fest, are there?
No, I don't think so. Like every year there's like an after party, like on the last night or whatever at the Holiday Inn, and bands will do cover sets, and the cover sets are always it's like Green Day. One time Bomb did a Weaker Than's cover set, which was like incredibly sick. And to be honest, again, like similarly, I think one of the reasons why like Jeff has resonated so much as a songwriter is he's one of these kinds of guys where like I think people in certain snobbish indie circles don't take him seriously because his background is in ska music, but like he has such like versatile taste that really runs the gamut that like that's why those songs have resonated and why he's like continued to like grow in stature or whatever. But by and large, I think that's the exception. Like I think a lot of those people probably grew up with the same mentality as me, which is like that indie rock was also somehow the enemy because it was like cool kids were into that shit. And
Yeah, like there is something about it that does indie rock does sound in a more like objective way cool. Like it sounds like someone who's too cool for you singing a song to you because they have to. And some people are like drawn to that, including me. And that's why I love hardcore too, because it's like they talk about inclusivity so much, but it's actually so alienating and terrifying to go to a hardcore show where you don't know anyone.
But it's interesting. But I feel like you're maybe unique. I mean, I'm sure you're certainly not the only person that likes indie rock and hardcore. But I think we talked about this, like the laconic delivery, the whole kind of like slacker thing, is so the opposite of like a band like say the Descendants, right? Which is all about like energy, and then like even early emo that was all about like over the top expression or whatever. And I feel like especially when you're younger, it's like the indie rock thing feels like a posture because you're like no one at 18 is like calm, And so that was the whole thing. Like again, to bring it back to like a thing that blew up when we were young that was really relevant to like our moment was like when everyone you knew was obsessed with the Strokes, and I was like, why pretend that being in a band sucks? Like, I would so much rather, like, listen to Taking Back Sunday, who are, like, terrible, but, like, at least are sort of, like, admitting that, like, playing music is, like, supposed to be fun and feeling shit is a thing that happens to you. And so I guess that's it. I could never fuck with the like, lackadaisical shit.
Oh, man, I love it. It's so much,
I know you do.
It's so much better. It's so much better to like.
But hardcore is also the opposite of that, right? Like that, and that's where that dichotomy is interesting.
That's why hardcore is. I mean, I don't claim to understand hardcore yet, but I do plan to dedicate my life to try to figure it out.
I mean, based on the start of this episode, I do not think you've solved hardcore.
No, but I'm definitely on the right track. Contrary to whatever you think, I definitely know what's going on. The next one is somebody doing a guitar cover of the Blink-182 cover of Dinosaur Jr.
Cool.
And the thing about this, too, that I was thinking about is another reason I probably didn't like this song when I was a kid is because my guitar teacher, did teach me some theory stuff right away. And so I always had, like, some idea of some rules that were supposed to exist. And in my head, this chord progression should always be an E minor, not an E major. So, like, to me, going from D major to E major to A major, like, just probably irked me back then because it does sound a little bit strange, but I like it now because it reminds me of like Beat Happening or something too. But definitely, like, thinking about the chord progression, it's like a bit off in my head.
That's very pretentious, but
well, being pretentious rocks too, though.
Oh,
everything rocks, and it's like we're playing since you're a gamer, I can say this, but it's like we're playing an RPG, and we have all these different tools in our arsenal. We can be earnest, or we can be pretentious, or we can be dead inside.
I can admit that I understand that now because I finally come out as a gamer here on the pod.
That's so brave of you. So this is by Mike Pasden, and this is from nearly 10 years ago on YouTube. That's crazy. 10 years of this sitting here waiting for us to find it.
Isn't that crazy? Like, you let that hang like I was supposed to react and be like, yeah, totally crazy.
mean, it sounds like shit, but most importantly, it's like, look at his guitar. It's so good. This guitar is just perfect.
The guitar is like, yeah, like it looks like a prop. Like
I think he literally cut out.
Real.
He cut out the Dude Ranch cow and taped it on to his pick guard.
But that was like, do you not remember that? Like, I used to put stickers on my Discman, and when I couldn't find stickers for bands that I liked, I would like cut out ads from like Exclaim.
Oh yeah,
or
like the tiny album covers. I forget where I got those from.
Yeah. Because there'd always be like in magazines where they'd be like whatever label, and it would be like the whole catalog or
yeah,
like, latest releases, and you tape them on. So like I had my huge brick ass Discman covered in like stickers and packing tape.
Oh man. That's so classic.
This guitar rocks. I also, I'm gonna regret this, and now I'm gonna regret that I've said it too much. But I didn't mean the earlier gamer thing to be like coming out as a gamer joke, because I know that shit's like not funny. Like it's not. I more meant like I'm admitting that I'm a gamer, and then it just felt like I just want to make it clear that was not the joke that I was making. You know what I'm saying?
I'm pretty sure it was, but
I know it was not. But I was admitting it. I used the wrong phrase. It just
Yeah, I guess it's true. What would be a funnier way of putting it for when I edit it later?
Right? How are you gonna like overdub it?
Yeah,
I'm being baptized as a gamer.
Reborn.
Yeah, exactly.
He's a born again gamer.
Yeah, in the light of Mario's love.
So this next one is like it's funny. There's a lot of covers of it that are normal, and there's a lot of covers that aren't, where people are like, I would never try to cover this as a rock song, so I've done it acoustically. But this one seems like it's like a early YouTube cover girl named Anna, On Your Wings, and then she deleted it, and so some guy named Thomas has reposted it, which seems like kind of creepy.
That's
in a way,
because it is just like an intimate like bedroom webcam cover. Like he ripped it. He was like, I want to make sure, and then one day couldn't find it. It was like, well, the world needs this.
I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but based on... Oh, yeah, see, this is a re-upload. That's what people are saying. People are still definitely, like, hitting on her via Thomas. Somebody said, Dinosaur Jr.'s original makes me feel like I've been dragged through 10 car crashes. Your version makes me feel like I'm rolling down a hill of daisies.
Wow. Shoot your shot.
While we're being so open, this reminds me of one of my more embarrassing things, is that I've tried watching the Belle and Sebastian musical so many times to get into it, and it's not a good movie, unfortunately.
I'm sorry to hear that, man.
But I was like, I shit on musicals all the time, but I've tried watching God Help the Girl so many times because I love Belle and Sebastian, I love Glasgow, and I think it was like produced by someone who works with Wes Anderson all the time, or directed. Like, there's just like so many things where I'm like, this will be so good. This will be my perfect guilty pleasure, but it's just like not good, simply. Unfortunately.
I'm sorry to hear that, man.
Thank you. But I think actually that did sound pretty good, to be honest. I thought
that was honestly like enchanting.
Yeah,
like I feel like if I had heard that when I was like in high school, I'd be like, I love Dinosaur Jr. But there's like a lot of complicated reasons for that. But I'm just saying.
But up next, I guess this is something called Cover Nation. I don't know this. I just Googled it. It has 6,000 likes on Facebook. This seems like some shit where they're just trying to get on playlists and stuff. This is from Cover Nation Volume 7, Acoustified Hits Volume 7. The picture that accompanies this, I would say that the girl playing guitar in a field, look, I don't want to be like a shitty incel. I'm not Tom DeLonge. She's definitely playing a D chord on some fucked up strings. She's playing like a jazz chord right now that doesn't exist.
It's definitely, or we do not know, like this person could be an accomplished jazz guitarist, but
maybe she's playing with some sort of weird tuning or something. She's like on some John Fahey tip or something.
Yeah, but I do think that like this is what all of like Steve Sladowski from Pups like tweets are about. Is like whatever this chord is. It does, to be fair, though, more so have the feeling of like a model who was handed a guitar in a field.
Right. Well, she does know a D chord, I think. Just maybe, unless the guitar's in drop D, but I still don't think that would work as a D chord. I'm going to be thinking about this for quite a while. But the other thing I was going to say is, I feel like the headband she's wearing is like just as far as you can go before officially being able to be canceled for cultural appropriation. It's like right on the edge.
Yeah, any more, but it's like she's nailing it, and I respect that.
Yeah, so this is Cover Nation's version of Freak Scene, and I think it's very cursed.
Seen enough to eye you, but I see too much to try you. It's always weirdness while you taking much too much to fry you. The weirdness flows between us. Anyone could tell to see us. Freak scene just can't believe us. Why can't it just be cool and free us?
I mean, I don't know if that's the stock photo girl playing guitar, but if so, then that chord is a little bit more believable.
Yeah, like I said, I just assumed this because it just looks like a covers compilation album, so it really does look like a stock photo. And then the song, I was like, wait, maybe this is this person. So yeah, maybe we.
I mean, either way, that was fucking terrible. But the beauty of it, and what you were saying earlier about how like indie rock people take themselves too seriously and they're too like posturing to be cool. The beauty of that, when people are like that, is then things like this exist where you can show them this and then they get really bummed out and angry. So they're like very easy not only to respect but also to troll by showing them things like this. So hopefully someone knows someone who's like a huge Dinosaur Jr. fan who takes everything too seriously, and then you can send them the Cover Nation version and they'll get really bummed out and sigh. And that's
Hell
just
yeah.
really satisfying for some reason. I have a sickness.
You just want to make people sigh.
Yeah. That's all. Nothing worse. That's it. Just a little sigh.
I feel like I'm on the Cover Nation Facebook page. I feel like Cover Nation is like an aggregator of great covers.
Yeah, it all feels very bot made.
Yeah, I don't understand. I'm like, oh, I love covers so much. I want to like this page so I can see Scott Helman and Johnny Orlando cover Billie Eilish. I'm absolutely positive that I work for the company that made this video too.
Amazing. Okay, up next is So Drove. I'm pretty confused by this one. I can't figure out like what kind of music this is or like anything about it really. I mean, the photo is like, I think this guy's wearing this hoodie ironically. Like, I think this person knows what they're doing in terms of looking really scary and weird. Like, it has like 100 Gex vibe.
Yeah, completely. It's that's a very like metal militia type shirt, or just like
yeah, totally. But I didn't look at that earlier. I only looked at the artwork for this cover, and I thought it seems like a band that plays in that Wisconsin venue that we talk about all the time by accident. Like, it just seems like a local Midwest band. So I'm pretty confused by everything, and I think the music was really confusing too. So this is So Drove with Freak Scene.
Seen enough to eye you, but I think too much to try you. It's always weirdness while you dig it much to fry you. The weirdness flows between us. Anyone can tell to see us. Freak scene just can't believe us. Why can't it just be cool and free us? Seen enough to eye you, but I see too much to try you. It's always weirdness while you dig it much to fry you. The weirdness flows between.
Okay, I only listened to like 5 seconds of it before, so I was so confused, but now it all makes sense to me. And yes, this person is literally like friends with 100 Gex and previous guests of the pod, Mabson. So I think this is like
Yeah, it's that
Again,
was
showing
sick.
how everything of this era is like being made cool again. Thank God.
Yeah, that was very good though.
Yeah, like it was insanely contemporary and cool. So that was great. Good job, So Drove.
Congratulations from us.
Yeah, I actually want to check out more of So Drove now. But up next, we've got, I think this is an actual like electronic remix of the song uploaded by Kerwood Music. Oh yeah, it is. This one's very strange. I remember this one now. So this is by Kerwood, or I guess it's by Bent Cousin featuring Kerwood. I don't know. I don't understand even what this is, but this is from 5 years ago.
That was kind of cool.
Yeah, it was cool, and it's reminding me more why this is such a Blink type song, because it can be interpreted in so many ways, and it's just kind of like for everyone.
Yeah, that's like it's sort of working in all of these contexts. Like the acoustic thing was as cool as that.
Yeah, totally. I agree.
It's just like a fundamentally good and simple, like kind of perfect little song.
I mean, other than that E major I was talking about earlier. But
Sorry, I forgot that it is fundamentally imperfect.
Okay, well, we're gonna close out with a few like big time people covering it. Starting with the Lemonheads, covered it in.
Did you like
96.
the Lemonheads? Was this like a
no?
band for
Another one where I felt like I was pretending, or like I had to.
Yeah,
What about
same.
you?
I definitely told people I liked the Lemonheads. I don't think I even own a Lemonheads CD.
Like, are we like? I think there is things about our generation where we're in this weird between zone. Maybe.
I mean, no, I just think that, like, you know, the bands that we got were Blink. Like, you know what I mean? And then if you wanted to authentically latch on to an indie band, it was like that first wave of like kind of New York, Meet Me in the Bathroom. Like that was our people's era.
I guess so. I mean, yeah, because all the indie stuff that I was into, that was because of older kids that I knew were showing me like Pedro the Lion or Low or things like that, and then. I guess you're right. I just, for some reason, maybe it's just because of the specific people I hung out with didn't care about the Lemonheads or even Guided by Voices, that I kind of just like didn't get into them when it would have made sense to.
Totally.
And now I just can't go back.
But Guided by Voices is one where, like, and I'm hardly going to pretend that I'm like a huge fan because there's like too much material. But that's a band that, like, 2 years ago I was like, Guided by Voices fucking kick ass. Like, I just didn't. I never even bothered to listen to them. It turns out they're good as hell. Who knew?
Yeah, I mean, I still can't do it, but it's also just one of those things where it's like I'm at this cranky old man age where I just don't want to get into things now because I'm supposed to. Like whenever a famous artist dies, if I've never listened to them, I'm like, well, I guess I'll never listen to them because I don't want to like bandwagon their death.
You'll never respect Dave Berman.
I mean, I did fuck with Dave Berman, the first Silver Jews record I was into.
How could I know that if you didn't like write an entire Medium article about how his death was actually about you, Josiah?
That's true. That is the move.
Josiah and Dave Berman by Josiah.
Moving along, please. So here's the Lemonheads, and Murph joined them on stage at the Black Cat in Washington, D.C. in 1996. So again, even just thinking about how cool this entire video and like year is, I'm thinking that this is the same time as Blink. I can understand the animosity towards Blink as well.
Yeah, it's true. It's totally true. I'm also just thinking how sick it is. Like, generally being a mononym is, like, obviously rad as hell. But the idea that, like, you know, like Madonna, you know, Teller, Murph. It's great.
Teller is one of yours.
Yeah, Teller's a cool mononym.
We
don't know.
You definitely fucking love Penn and Teller and like all their weird shit. Like, what do they write, novels or something? Like, I don't even know about those fucking.
Yeah, they
guys
write
other
like
than-
libertarian manifestos now.
Yeah, you love that shit, don't you? You little freak.
Yeah.
Yeah, the floor tom part with the chugging is like very important. Like that invented music.
Totally. Also, like this video is so sick. Like it's shot from a sort of like 2/3 like above angle. You can just see sort of the front of the crowd, and it's like grainy in such a like perfectly authentic way. Like it's
yeah,
this is very
really
sick.
Okay, I'll tell people that I like the Lemonheads now, but I'm not going to go any deeper than that.
How's
Than
Evan
this
Dando
video.
these days? Is he good?
I think I saw a tweet about him saying that he was trying to get clean the other day, which, I mean, that's sick. I don't know much about him, but definitely I'm down with that.
Godspeed, Evan Dando.
Yeah, I don't know. But up next, it was covered by, I mean, this is just, even just the pedigree of who's covered it along with Blink-182 is so funny. So it was
Oh
also
my
covered
god!
by,
Yeah.
it was covered by Uncle Tupelo. And this was uploaded by Freak Scene Net Audio. So I think this must be another fan recording. This is actually from '91 in St. Louis.
Amazing.
That's wild. Wait, when even was Fly Swatter? Oh, the other thing I was going to say about Fly Swatter, I'm just fucking all over the place today because I'm selling garbage cans. But I noticed when I was looking at it, I'm usually drawn to the slur on the cover of Fly Swatter. But I noticed that Blink actually has a hyphen after it. It's like it honestly looks like they've erased 182 from it. Like it's so funny.
Yeah, that's so weird.
It's like
Yeah, so Fly Swatter's 93. The cover of Fly Swatter kind of looks like the ASICS logo, eh?
yeah,
Like, or whatever,
totally.
right? That's the one with the shoe.
Yeah, or like DeviantArt Spider-Man fan art or something.
Yeah, totally.
It looks so bad.
It's
I
so
love it.
it's like not even cool old. Like it just looks like shit.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing though, right? Like Blink-182 is like incredibly uncool, and that must be why they have like I don't get it. They overcame that hurdle of not being cool, and now they're gonna last forever. That's how I feel about Imagine Dragons too. Once they win everyone over, they're in for life.
It also just like I cannot wait. It would be so amazing to know what a member of Dinosaur Jr. thought about this cover, and I just it would be so great if I could
Wow.
if I could understand how they maybe received it, and maybe one day
One day.
I'll be able to enjoy possessing that knowledge.
You're doing a bit, but it is true. Maybe one day, because I don't think you listen to the guest spots anymore. I certainly
do.
don't
I listen.
when I to them.
I would listen to Felix
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously.
because I'm like a fan.
All right. This is Uncle Tupelo. So, I mean, I don't even. Again, like.
Is it now you've said it twice? Is it Tupelo or Tupelo?
I've never said it out loud before. This is the kind of band that I would never claim to know much about, not even pretend.
Oh, okay, yeah. Because this is a band that I liked, but now
really?
I'm worried
Okay.
that I think. Well, I mean, I like No Depress. Like I liked, whatever the thing that everyone likes.
Yeah. Jeff Tweedy seems like a pretty cool guy, but like I just like I don't know. It's just something that I like what you were saying earlier. Like every time I hear Wilco, I'm like, this is actually pretty good. And I saw them live once, and I thought like Nels Klein was fucking shredding, and it was cool. But
Yeah.
just like never think to put it on.
I definitely fuck with but see that's the thing. Like everyone, like I like know Yankee Hotel Foxtrot back to back, but I also could not give less of a shit about any other Wilco record. Like it just starts boring me. But this shit is awesome. I actually think you would like No Depression is the record, right? Like I know it has the song. See, this is how like not.
Isn't there a magazine named after that?
Yeah, because this was basically like the invention of like alt country, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't
but
think
like
I
that
can listen-
record
like-
fucking rules.
The thing is, like, once I leave Calgary, maybe I can listen to alt country. But living here, I was like, I don't want to
Right.
fucking do that. Everyone here has like Lucero tattoos and shit. I can't fuck with that. No, thank you.
Yeah, that's fair. That's your burden.
That's on me. So here's that cover from '91.
Imagine hearing that and knowing what it was and being
Yeah.
excited. Like, I still don't recognize it.
Ooh, I think someone cleaned up this recording. Just wanted to hear how they did the chug part.
That chugged pretty well.
It's very comeback kid, Wake the Dead.
Oh, yeah.
Do you think Dinosaur Jr. was influenced by Comeback Kid when they wrote that part?
Absolutely. I think there's no denying the Christian hardcore element of Dinosaur Jr.'s sound.
All right, the last one I've saved for last because it's special to me and it's going to make you angry, I think. But this really pieces it all together for me. And this is...
Oh, yeah, of course. I was literally going to be like, is it both? But yeah, okay. It is.
Of course it is. And I agree with Julie Richmond, who commented, Belle and Sebastian covering Dinosaur Jr.? Surely I am dreaming. Like, even Belle and Sebastian fans' YouTube comments just sound clever and intelligent. I love
Oh
it.
my
God
God.
bless them. Ooh, that jangle is so good. I love Belle and Sebastian. I feel like you shouldn't be allowed to not like Belle and Sebastian.
I don't know. I was just like checking my phone and stuff.
It's like wimpy pop punk vocals and clever lyrics. Like you literally like legally have to like it.
My sister, I think, got into Belle and Sebastian, but like I just had never.
Have you ever put it on? You've probably never put it on.
I've never really tried.
Yeah. If you put on If You're Feeling Sinister, you'll be like, oh shit, this is amazing. It's
I'm just like never feeling sinister though.
That's also true.
Sorry.
That's very true. You're not. But anyways, that's all the covers I'm gonna put us through right now. I think we've done good.
Yeah, I
here.
think so. So, Josiah, what are your final thoughts on the song "Freak Scene" by Dinosaur Jr. as performed by the band Blink-182?
I like that when we don't talk about Blink-182, we actually aren't repeating ourselves.
Yeah, this was like a really interesting conversation. I quite enjoyed myself.
Yeah. I don't know. I just love thinking back on posturing versus being sincere about what you actually like, and that kind of those topics are always really fun. But I also like sometimes get tempted to when we do this to like go back and check out all the bands that I missed out on and get into them. But I think I'm probably just going to continue listening to 3 songs of the new Young Thug and then pausing it to watch a viral video and then forgetting to turn it back on and working in silence, which is my main move.
It sounds perfect, man. I don't know. This whole thing kind of reminds me. The conversation reminds me of like what is like one of the reasons why like I hate sleep and death is because like I know that there's so much like not just good shit but good shit that I would love that's out there that I've never heard. Like Ashley was making fun of me recently.
Sorry, 1 second. For some reason, I thought you meant you hate sleeping. And then you said I hate sleep and death, and I was like, holy shit, you're getting philosophical right now.
Yeah, because I think about how.
And then I thought you were talking about the bands.
No,
so
I
you're
love
talking
sleep.
about the actual topic.
I love sleep and death, like the
you said
bands.
sleep and death, and then I was like, wait, which
Yeah.
death does he mean? Does he mean the Detroit one? Because I think they're a bit overrated.
I mean,
or does
that
he mean the
record
death
is
one?
good, but I mean Florida Death, and I mean
So you
weed sleep. But I
you
hate
were
sleep the
sincerely
activity.
talking about the real life sleep and death.
Okay, so I love Sleep the band. I hate Sleep the activity. I love Death, the Florida death metal band, but I hate Death the inevitability. And it's because shit will happen where, like, literally in the last, like, 6 months, I heard, I really heard Running Up the Hill for the first time, and, like, I listened to it, like, 10 times a day, and I'm like, how many other great songs are there that I haven't heard? And then something like this happens, and I'm like, maybe I really am going to get into Dinosaur Jr. now, and I love the fact that this stuff is at least, like, always there for us, and so that fills me with, like, enthusiasm before, like, the sort of cold grip of
Death,
the awareness of my own mortality and Death the band comes for me. And then besides that, this stuff always really interests me because I do think, you know, it's like if I were to try to psychoanalyze the least interesting shit like about my own worldview, which is, like I said, this like incredibly petty like chip on my shoulder, and you know, it's like everything from like, why doesn't stupid fucking AV Club write about this podcast to, you know, why did no one give a shit about the good Junior Battles records, and like, you know, and it's rooted in this like kind of indie versus punk thing that is like one of the reasons why I like avoided these bands, even though they're objectively fucking good. And
all of these things and all of these conversations and all of these like tangents, I'm not even joking, I'm being sincere, are somehow rooted in the cultural black hole that is Blink-182.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Seen enough to eye you, but I've seen too much to try you. It's always weirdness while you dig it much too much to fry you. The weirdness flows between us. Anyone can tell, just see us. Freaks scene just can't believe us. Why can't it just be cool and free us?
Welcome to Blink-155, to none other than the one and only Lou Barlow. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this.
No worries.
What, I mean, I'm sure it's not very often that you get a request to go on a Blink-182 themed podcast.
Nope, it's first time.
Is Blink, like, the thing about you is that I feel like, depending on, you know, taste is subjective, but I feel like basically you are associated with cool music. Are you even aware of the band Blink-182? What, like, when someone says that to you, what does it mean to you when you hear that name?
They were huge. They were an absolutely enormous pop punk band from the early 2000s, right?
Yeah.
And they had naked people. They had naked people in their videos, and they had the sort of bouncy SoCal pop punk that was sort of super produced and really good videos, you know. And a very sort of distinctive style that they had, you know. And that drummer, they got the drummer that was covered in tattoos that has his own drumsticks that you can buy at Guitar Center.
Yeah, exactly.
Who, incidentally, Murph from Dinosaur Jr. really likes Travis Barker's drumsticks.
No way. That's amazing.
Yeah.
My wife used to use those drumsticks as well, but then we'd always borrow people's drums, and she'd leave white chips of paint all over their drum set because of the.
All right.
Amazing. That's an incredible crossover. So you definitely do know your stuff. You don't have your head in the sand. But in terms of like, I mean, what do you think of that kind of music? Does it gross you out, or do you kind of secretly like it?
I like pop music, you know, so I'm not going to, if something sticks in my head for like more than 10 seconds, I'm like, okay, fair game. Good one. Good one, Blink-182. But definitely, I mean, it's a little over, I mean, it's very produced, you know, I mean, so I'm not a huge fan of like super produced rock music. I've never have been. So that's one, that would be my only sort of barrier to the band, is that I found their records very produced and of a very particular era. So they had a very particular sound to them, which to me was like, that's not something that I would introduce into my day-to-day listening. But I'm an old guy. I've got very sort of somewhat esoteric tastes,
Right.
Blink-182 have a very, very particular vibe, which they do incredibly well, and they did very, much respect.
I mean, I gotta say, when it comes to bands like that, I've always wished that they would embrace a more sort of low or mid-fi aesthetic, because I do think it just, once your brain is trained to listen to lo-fi music, it does sound disgusting to hear the high production value.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it could be that, but I mean, it's just very produced music has always existed from from the 50s through the 60s, 70s. There's always things that are like a little bit overproduced, and I don't make value judgments based on that, and I certainly don't judge music based on the production. But I would say for that particular era, they were not. They were, and it's a very particular sound. That's all. And it's cool. I mean, I listened to. It's funny because I did my homework today. I actually listened to a bunch of Blink-182 stuff. I was like, it's cool.
So what did you listen to? I mean, this is just so surreal for me. I'm so happy that you did this.
I listened to Freak Scene first off, the thing that you called me about.
Yeah,
that's on their first cassette, and I'd heard that they had covered it.
So you were aware of that?
I'd never. Yeah, I did. I heard that kind of like last year probably, and I don't know if this is true. This is sort of but there's this guy named Otis Bartholomew. He was a photographer for Trans World Skate magazine, and he was a musician. He was in a lot of early hardcore bands, and he was in a San Diego band called Fluff, and I think he either recorded the first demo for them, or he was he recorded some early version of Blink.
He did. Yeah, you're right. He recorded, I think he recorded what is known as Buddha now, which is sort of a compilation of demos. But I think the Freak Scene cover might actually be like a 4-track recording, in a bedroom.
It's definitely a 4-track recording. Yeah, I don't know if he did. So I guess he did the one. He did Buddha, I guess, which would be probably the stuff maybe just after that.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's kind of cool. So we know O really well. Everyone knows O. So O is kind of the guy who brings it all together, especially when it comes to sort of Southern California punk and indie rock and things like that. So and skate culture. So O. It was kind of interesting to know that O had a connection with those guys, and then I heard they did. Freak Scene, so I listened to Freak Scene today, and I thought I really liked it because the vocals were very non-Blink-esque, his because there's a particular like vocal approach that characterizes their really successful recordings, and that's not on this Freak Scene, and it's actually a very faithful cover, and I was kind of impressed, I have to say. I was like, wow, these guys are good. I was like, that's cool. That's cool. They covered a Dino song on their first cassette, and then they became one of the biggest rock bands in America. That's
that's
cool,
just bizarre. Even just like philosophically to think that you had a part in this band being created. Like, how does that feel?
It's cool. It's cool because it's all about. I mean, that's the thing that makes me try to be, and to be open-minded about music, is that music is really just this big sort of flow of influences and bands and like styles of music. It's just this raging river, and we all kind of like, and to think that we all drink from that stream, is kind of cool. I kind of like that. I like knowing that we were in the, whatever nourished them, whatever like dip of the river they took, like we were part of that. And that's kind of cool because then they create and then from them, they become part of the flow, and people become influenced and they take, as musicians and as people who love music, we take things out of this great rushing river of fucking amazing music,
Yeah. So
that's cool.
That's so cool. I'm curious also, before I ask you what other songs you listened to today, because I'm so curious, but I would like to know, when you guys wrote Freak Scene, did you know that was going to be like one of the ones that sort of followed you forever, or was it just another song?
Well, Jay wrote it, and to be totally honest, like when I first heard it, I thought, wow, that's really obvious. Like I just thought, I was like, wow, Jay's really, because it's not, to me, he wrote, leading up to that song in particular, like he wrote songs that had like, 5 or 6 parts in them. I mean, like, we're done really well. Like, he totally, the way he composes stuff is pretty amazing, but I thought Freak Scene was a real simplification for him, like, stylistically. So when he first introduced it, I was like, oh, this is interesting. He's kind of, like, really cutting it down here. He's, like, he really, like, he cut it down to, like, 2 parts, basically, and a really repetitive guitar line, which he doesn't actually do so much now even. I mean, and he certainly didn't do it back then very often. So I thought it was kind of interesting. It was like a simple, it was like his formula, but very simplified. And, yeah, I mean, I liked it, but I just remember being sort of shocked at how simple it was. I just wasn't expecting him to do something quite so simple at that time.
Right. I mean, the simplicity maybe is what connected with a band like Blink-182 when they're teens in a bedroom as well.
Oh, totally.
That rules. Another question I want to ask you before I ask you what else you listen to is, like, starting off in the actual hardcore punk scene, I feel like most people don't have this kind of open-minded, we're all drinking from the same river view of music. Instead, it does become very regimented and very separate. And so I'm just kind of curious, like, was there ever a time where you would have thought, like, oh my God, these sellout pop punk bands, or, any kind of, like, of that sort of judgmental? That's what I think of when I think of hardcore punk often.
Well, I don't know, though, because a lot of what I think makes Blink interesting to me is that part of my introduction to hardcore punk rock was, Southern California punk rock.
Right.
Which was like, even back then, even back in like 1981, 80, the bands from the West Coast like had this shimmering sound that was unlike anything on the East Coast. And there's even a quote I was reading today about one of the Blink guys talking about the difference between the East Coast and the West Coast punk. And it's a real thing, and it existed way back then. So there was bands called, there was Shattered Faith from Southern Cal, like somewhere in Orange County, Bad Religion, like early Bad Religion. There's a band called China White. These bands had like almost kind of pre-heavy, like almost pre-metal kind of guitar, like really shimmery kind of high-end power chord guitars, and and really good production. So there was like a lot of this really shimmery stuff, and they were kind of poppy. Like the Circle Jerks were really poppy.
Totally.
The Adolescents were really poppy. Like there were so many like. And even Black Flag is like, as they represent such an incredibly sort of like, particular, almost minor chord, dark sort of take on punk. But even Black Flag, had TV Party and a lot of their really great songs are really, I think to me, are kind of have it at the heart, like sort of pop chord progression. So to me, like the idea of like Southern California poppy punk rock is like, that's just as old. I mean, it's always been that way. And there's always been really distinctive vocals from that particular area. It's always been a little more, even when like, suicidal tendencies, like institutionalized, it was like, man, again, like another just, Southern California band with this kind of shimmery, accessible, take on punk rock.
Right.
So that's always been a part of, and Agent Orange, Bloodstains by Agent Orange. I mean, from the beginning, like when my first exposure to bands from the West Coast, was like this kind of. So to think that from that, and you just saw it happening.
Right.
It was so funny back then. Just seeing like Southern California, like the bands just got poppier and poppier, and those bands are like they're playing to like hundreds and hundreds of kids too, because it's Southern California, so they have a big audience, and so bands that do become popular in Southern California, and bands like NoFX and stuff that I don't know that much about really, I just know that they got huge, and then when I've seen those bands play, now you're like, oh my God, because they play to their audience, it's like music for performance, and it's like and it does make it different than, you know, my East Coast kind of sensibilities and things. So I can understand what you're talking about. And I do think that people do make these kind of distinctions. But for me, I have to say from my beginning, you know, my induction into hardcore punk rock and sort of regional, you know, punk rock music and how it changed and, you know, evolved through the years. It's like, I always, you know, equate Southern California with pop punk. So Blink-182, Green Day, when those guys hit it huge or whatever, you're like, well, this just makes sense. This is a style of music that has been growing and just exponentially developing since 1980.
Yeah, it was inevitable.
So by the time Blink-182 hit, like I did recognize their music as being punk rock, and I did recognize it as being sort of uniquely Southern Californian. So, you know, so I thought that was, you know, it's kind of cool.
That's awesome.
You know?
Yeah. So, okay, what else did you listen to today?
There was some song with like weed in the title. Maybe it's on Enema of the State. I don't know. That's
Dumpweed.
One, right?
Dumpweed, yeah.
Yeah, that one. That was pretty good, actually.
That song has some really cool riffs, I think.
I was sort of listening to it, and then I was really I was thinking about the drumming, and I thought I was like, you know, the drumming is really good, and I think even from the beginning I think their first drummer was really good too, right?
Totally, yeah, in a more like straightforward way, but kind of just barreling forward, and then Travis brought kind of the Tommy Lee energy to it, I think.
So I was listening to that, and then I sort of backtracked, I think, to something that was more like earlier. I think it was obviously much earlier because the vocals weren't quite as developed, and but the drumming was still really good. And I'm like, well, they've always had a good drummer.
Yeah,
you know? And that makes a big difference. And then that makes everything. You know, that's if you're a punk band and you've got a good drummer and the guy in your band can write some catchy tunes, then, you know, that's great.
Totally.
And they definitely have that. So.
Man, I'm so happy to hear that you're just like a super open-minded Blink-182 fan, maybe, or, you know, fan curious.
Well, I was playing. My son just discovered the Ramones, so when I was playing Blink, I was like, okay. I was waiting to see if he noticed because I was like, fuck, if he notices, then we're in for it. Like, I mean, who knows? When he gets a load of like Blink-182 or Green Day, I don't know if that means I'm going to be listening to a lot more Blink-182 and Green Day, right. Which is fine with me.
It could, you know, good, you know. I mean, since 1999, I would say pop punk has gotten incredibly worse. So you could do a lot worse than those two bands, I think.
Totally. I mean, the Green Day thing. I definitely, from the, you know, when they hit it big or whatever, it's like, great, good for them. Right. It's like, sounds good, looks good, whatever. You know.
That's awesome. Well, you know, I think this has been exactly what I wanted from you, but is there anything else that we should know about like Freak Scene or anything that I mean, it's just such a peculiar thing that Blink-182, one of their first statements as a band was to cover Freak Scene.
Well, you know, it speaks to their great taste. They obviously that too. It's like, wow, they had good taste. You know, that's cool.
I guess
it wasn't all about punk rock for those guys.
That's something that I have a hard time reconciling is the fact that pop punk, which I associate with being a teen, was happening at the same time as like really actually cool indie rock that has arguably aged better or been more musical, at least in sort of you know, in terms of like biases culturally. And it's just very strange that these things were happening at the same time. I just find that very peculiar. Even that they covered No Effects alongside Freak Scene. It's just like, wait, all of this was happening at the same time in the culture?
Yeah, right. That's true. Well, you know, that happens. I mean, things can be, when you realize what happened at the same time, any sort of decade, you go like, wait a minute. You know, it's like, yeah. I mean, when Dinosaur Jr. were happening, you know, it was like Culture Club were really big. You know, it was like, and then, you know, it was just the sort of strata of, if you sort of dissect it, you're like, wow, Duran Duran was the biggest, you know, whatever, shit like that. When you think about all the things that happen concurrently and can happen completely isolated from each other.
That's so true. All right. Well, before I let you go, is there anything that you want to plug?
The new Sebadoh record. Everybody should go listen to the new Sebadoh record. It's called Act Surprised.
Amazing.
Check it out.
Is there any nasal pop punk vocals on it or anything?
Definitely, it's all over. It's
No, our listeners have good taste. We all have good taste. I'm sure everyone will go check it out and love it.
It's a good high. It's a good punk rock record. It's a good high energy, catchy punk rock record. So
Awesome. Thank you so much.
no worries, man.